a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal.
Let me start with a question for everybody out there. When you picture college sports in Tennessee, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Got football on Saturdays? Maybe basketball or baseball? Got women's softball, track? What if I told you right here in Rocky Top, we got another sport that's growing fast, a sport you might not expect in the South? That's right, hockey. Welcome to the Prosperity Lounge, everybody, where hope meets freedom, where growth gets personal. I'm your host, Joey Ruffalo, financial coach, business strategist, and most importantly, your guide through conversations that matter. This is where we explore money, business, wellness, and yes, stories that make our communities thrive. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on Tennessee hockey, the Tennessee Ice Vols, as they're called, correct? Good.
Tennessee Ice Vols.
Yes. A program that's building tradition, passion, and leadership in a sport that's not usually associated with Rocky Top, but we're here to change that. My guest tonight is Patrick Green, goalie, leader, and currently the president of the Tennessee Ice Hockey Club. Originally from the Boston area, Patrick has spent more than a decade between the pipes. He's balancing life as a student, an athlete, and team president, and guiding the Ice Vols into a season of growth both on and off the ice. So grab a seat, settle in, and let's welcome Patrick to the Prosperity Lounge. Patrick, pull up a chair. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited because I first learned about Tennessee Ice Vols hockey last year at a community luncheon. Somebody came up to me and goes, "Hey, you are in Farragut." I said, "Yep." And he said, "What do you do out there?" And I said, "Well, I'm the vice chair of the tourism committee." And he goes, "You guys are doing a poor job." And I go, "About what?" Because Tennessee ice hockey plays and got cool sports in Farragut every year in September, and I had no idea. So I put that on the radar to kind of get that taken care of this year. And I think it was like late August rolled around. I looked at the calendar and I went, "Oh crap, it's almost September and the Ice Vols are going to be here again." And we did another poor job of getting that involved. So I wanted to make sure I had you on. I wanted to make sure we talked about it because, not just for Tennessee hockey itself, but for our little community outside of Knoxville and Farragut, we get college sports and we get UT college sports to come to Farragut and actually play in Farragut. That's exciting for us. We got to embrace that. I'm on the Ice Vols train here.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough. It's unfortunate, but also fortunate that we get the opportunity to play at the Knoxville Coliseum. But obviously, they do not put an ice in the Coliseum until the Ice Bears start training camp, which is until the beginning of October. So from then. Before that, we're in cool sports. We've grown pretty close with Ronald, the rink manager over there. So, it's fortunate that we get to pull some fans and draw a nice crowd from a different aspect of a different part of Knoxville, which is great.
For sure. For those that may not even know what Tennessee hockey is, Tennessee had a hockey team. What's the story of the Ice Vols? Take me back a little bit. I know your connection to it, but how did the how did the team get started?
Yeah, we do get that a lot. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't know we had a hockey team on campus. But yeah, so we are actually the oldest and we like to say most established college hockey team in the South. Dates back all the way to 1966. First game played in 1967. So
wow.
we've been around a pretty long time. Obviously not myself. This is my third year here, junior, and just kind of learning about the program. I played prep school hockey up in New Hampshire. College hockey was kind of always something I wanted to get into, but I didn't actually really learn about club ice hockey until my junior or senior year up at Brewster Academy. That's where I attended. So, it's grown a lot. But yeah, Tennessee is kind of always just one of those schools where it's like, oh, that would be super cool to go to a school like Tennessee where it's just a hub for college sports, and it's like, oh, they have a club hockey team. So just was excited to learn more about that when I first found out.
So take me through this. What does club hockey mean to a novice person? So you hear NCAA hockey, you hear NCAA. The most I know about NCAA hockey is the Frozen Four, and it's always like Minnesota and Minnesota State, and most of those teams that are there. But take me through the levels. We had a nice discussion on this, but take me through the levels and break it down for the audience. The difference between NCAA, I think you said NCAA Division I, Division III, and then there's club, and then there's divisions and clubs and different organizations that run club sports.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, everyone growing up, they want to play college hockey. NCAA is always the goal. But in recent history, with the way that club college hockey has been going, it's become a lot more desirable. And the primary difference between NCAA and pretty much all club organizations is that it's entirely student run. Like I just mentioned, I'm a junior at Tennessee. I'm a student, full-time student, and president for the club. So I manage all the day-to-day operations, and pretty much every other club team is going to be a replica of that. There will be some where, some of these smaller schools, maybe up in Michigan or, just bigger areas where hockey is bigger, those smaller schools might get a little bit more funding and support from the school. But, for the most part, in terms of just operation aspects, it's entirely student run. I have a team of 8 or 9 officers, and then they have, upwards of a combined almost 30 interns that work for them. So it's very established, but at the end of the day, we are on our own in terms of, we're a separate entity from Tennessee Athletics. We do all of it ourselves.
So this is different than, say, me walking onto the campus with a basketball, finding a hoop and going, hey, play basketball at Tennessee.
Correct.
Or
yeah.
like a sorority or fraternity club league or flag football leagues, those kind of things. This is higher level legit. This
Correct.
is like you were telling me, we'll get to this part later on about the recruitment process, but there's players that like yourself that like we are looking at higher maybe division schools and then finding, and club is not I have to play club. It's like I'm playing college hockey with goals in mind.
Correct. Yeah. A lot of it is just the players that we get were maybe on a similar mindset of me, where it's like, NCAA hockey was an option if I decided to take a year or two to play junior hockey, which is kind of like a gap year in between graduating high school and then starting college. But, I reclassed in high school. I was already older for my grade, and, if I played junior hockey, I'd come in as a 21-year-old freshman, which, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that wasn't in my opinion, that wasn't in my best interest moving forward. So, as I mentioned earlier, Tennessee was, always a school that I thought would be really awesome to go to. And when I first learned about the program, I was like, oh yeah, that would be, it'd be nice to let the hockey follow me a little bit. But
Sure.
Once I learned a little bit more about the program, it's, it's a lot more legit than you might think just looking at it on paper.
Yeah. And this is like I guess the nice way I was trying to say it was, this is intentional to play club hockey. This
Absolutely.
isn't just falling into it all. What options are here for me? When people are making these decisions, these are intentional decisions to find schools to play competitive hockey or competitive club sports. There might be, I'm not familiar with other club sports that might be around in certain schools. Maybe baseball is a club sport because they're just not funded yet. But these are intentional decisions by you guys coming here.
Absolutely. And, just as it's student operated, it's 100% intentional because almost every single program is pay to play. So every single player is paying, their own money out of pocket, or, they have the support of their parents paying their money out of pocket to
That's right.
be able to provide the opportunities for them to continue playing at the collegiate level. And, a lot, whether it's, maybe just the option wasn't there for them in terms of NCAA, or more if it's a personal choice and choosing a different school that they like to go to. The hockey is the players that are coming to play club hockey are coming from high levels.
Nice. And like you mentioned something important there, there's no scholarships.
Correct.
Academic scholarships available to every student who earns one, but there's no athletic scholarships unless you're paying yourself.
No support from the programs in terms of paying the players to play for our program. At least not yet.
Okay. So you guys are on the ice. You're looking at your schedule. You've been here playing. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about the future of hockey in the SEC. Currently, though, you guys got to have some rivals.
So the neat thing about our game scheduling and our, the leagues that we play in is that a lot of them will resemble the teams that, the NCAA programs like football, baseball, basketball resembles a lot of the teams that they would play. So, teams like Florida or other SEC teams, like I think we play South Carolina 5 times this year. So
get to know them really well.
Yeah, we might get a little friendly rivalry going with them, but all the big SEC schools that we'll play, we'll treat it as a sort of rivalry game. They mean a little bit more. So, the fun thing too is that we'll base our schedule around the football team a little bit. So we'll play our games on Friday and Sunday, and if we have Florida coming to town, we'll play them, and then everyone gets off on Saturday to go to the game. So we match it up as much as we can and make it a true experience for our players to not only be able to play hockey at a collegiate level, but then still get the whole life and school aspect balance to it as well.
That must be something to really work on, is that work life, but like sport life balance and student life balance. Like, tell me a little bit about your day. What time do you guys get up in the morning? Do you guys train kind of on that same schedule? Do you have a training schedule that you guys kind of stick to during the season? That's maybe not as crazy as whatever,
right. So and then this is the other aspect of club hockey, is that it's obviously very competitive, but it's a little bit more relaxed than what you'd see for a typical NCAA schedule.
Okay.
I have some friends that are playing NCAA Division III hockey, and they're up at 7 a.m. in the morning and they go till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and it's all strictly hockey. You have a couple classes during the day, but it's a full-time commitment. In terms of club hockey, for us, we'll be on the ice 2 to 3 times a week practicing. We'll get 2 games on the weekend. So, 4 or 5 times a week we're on the ice. We'll have an off-ice workout every other Wednesday. So it's, in terms of just daily schedule, a lot of it is going to be academics priority first. We'll practice either at 6 a.m. in the morning or 10:30 at night. So it's, there's a lot of free time on your hands to make sure that you're getting your classwork done, getting all the stuff you need to do done. If you work during the day, there's plenty of opportunity to do that. And, a lot of our players do work. They have jobs. So, it's a lot more relaxed in terms of the rigor of schedule. But at the end of the day, we've got some very competitive and players that have come from very high levels.
And you guys don't practice at 10:30 and then 6:30 the following morning.
No.
Okay, good.
Definitely not.
Don't sign me up for that, man. We've seen some Ice Vols players get looks from pro teams after this. I know the path to pros is tougher, possibly tougher. The further down the NCAA club chart, it's the same for every sport. It's hard to see like a JUCO or D3 football player get really highly recruited and drafted and so forth, but they end up playing in other positions. The hockey's one of those sports that there's an ability, similar to basketball essentially, there's an ability to play overseas, there's an ability to play a lot of other places professionally. Have you guys seen success with that from the program, people who have gone on to professional?
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of our program, we had a couple of our players last year, approached. Since we play at the Knoxville Coliseum for many of our home games, we have the opportunity that we have an SPHL team that right there in house, the Knoxville Ice Bears. Mm-hmm. And some of the teams we play, like Alabama, for example, they don't have a rink on campus. They play about an hour away in Pelham, Alabama, which is where the Birmingham Bulls, another SPHL team, plays. So, we're in a number of different arenas where some of these minor professional teams play. And we did have one or two of our players last year approached by some of the SPHL teams, inviting them out for a professional tryout, maybe giving them an opportunity to play, maybe instead of playing for the college club hockey team, maybe you could come out and play for us, maybe sign a contract instead. So in terms of, in the past, with how much our club has grown in recent history in terms of talent, nobody from our program has gone on to play professional hockey yet, but like I said, that doesn't mean the opportunity's not there. There's so many professional leagues over in Europe, like Switzerland, Germany, England. There's so many different opportunities to play, and, knowing that some of our players have been approached by some minor professional teams, there's definitely opportunity for growth. And it's not uncommon for players playing club hockey to go on to play professional hockey in any form. There was actually today a defenseman who played ACHA Division I hockey at Adrian College. He just signed a tryout contract with the Ottawa Senators in NHL. So there's, like you said, as you get higher up in the levels, there's definitely more opportunities, but it's not an uncommon thing. And I would not be surprised to see maybe 3 or 4 years down the line some of our players being part of that pool as well.
I love it. Right now, it's the love of the sport. You guys are
Exactly.
playing for, man. Whatever happens, but the love of the game is there. Did have one question that came in. You're live on YouTube right now at the Prosperity Lounge. We had one question that came in the chat. It's kind of a funny one, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. When you sweat, does the sweat freeze to your forehead?
No, it's it's not that cold in the rink. You'll be all right in a sweatshirt.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's funny because for people who are not as familiar with hockey, you'd think I am not shocked to see a question like that, but we're pretty hot out there despite it being in a cold arena. So sure. I get that.
Guys, let's talk a little bit about the future of college hockey in the South. There's a lot of talk of SEC teams or SEC itself making the jump to NCAA varsity level. What would it take for Tennessee to get there? Is it more a collaborative effort with other teams and starting a league, or can Tennessee kind of break out on its own and be independent, say like what Notre Dame was in football?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in terms of something like an SEC program where maybe hockey down south is not necessarily like a meta sport, I think with the whole changes of NCAA hockey and the landscape of how some players might tumble down with the new rule change of the Canadian Hockey League, I think there's definitely possibility in the future. I'd say maybe 8 to 10 years. Okay. But, I think there's once the SEC does decide to have hockey, I think it would be a big transition where maybe there's going to be a lot of SEC programs moving over as a whole, just to kind of keep the integrity of the SEC alive, having their own conference. So I could see 6 or 8 teams moving over all at once, but that'll all take time.
Okay. Just
because down south in a lot of the college towns where hockey is not necessarily as big of a sport yet, I think once it once the game continues to grow, I think that's when we might see some changes.
Okay. And I would assume coupled with that is going to be facilities, funding, recruiting, things like that. Knoxville, you said we're fortunate enough or unfortunate or whatever the case may be. You have the Civic Auditorium that's there. It's not on campus. It's there. You can't use it till October when the Ice Bears start. But you have an option to play home as opposed to, say, Alabama, like you said, has to drive an hour away.
Right, and they're not the only ones either. Like I said, like you just mentioned, Alabama's an hour away. Florida, they play in Jacksonville, despite being in Gainesville. That's about an hour and a half drive.
Oh wow.
Ole Miss, they play in They play in Olive Branch, Mississippi, I'm pretty sure. So that's another hour from campus. So a lot of it, which is the part that's going to take time, is once all these teams have the correct facilities within a reasonable location to campus. It doesn't necessarily have to be on campus. There's there's a number of smaller, more recent teams that have moved over. So say Stonehill College, for example, it's in Massachusetts. They don't yet have a rink on campus, but they have an NCAA Division I program. So, once there's more reasonable, more suited facilities at many of these bigger SEC universities, I think that's when, and obviously backed by the athletic programs, backed by donors. Once you have the right people on board, get the right facilities in place, there'll be a good amount of changes that I think would happen pretty
Absolutely.
quickly.
Do you feel that Tennessee could be a leader in that, since we have the arena pretty close and we don't have to travel far? We have a community base that we can start building on right now, as opposed to try to build a fan base in 2 different cities.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I think that's a great possibility. I think us and the University of Georgia would be the two big leaders for that. University of Georgia has they have an FPHL team. That's another semi-pro team, and it's right next to campus as well. So I think it's getting there, but I think there will definitely need to be a little bit more systems in play before that all happens.
Do you think we're ready in the South?
For hockey?
Yeah.
I think so, as long as everybody, as long as the right things happen. I think the SEC and the fans of SEC sports would definitely be on board. I think there's a huge market for it.
Well, we can't let Tennessee State be the only team, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And tell me, I don't know how much you know about their switch over, but they obviously have enough of a backing and a groundswell to kind of have that happen. I mean, that's kind of joke that it seems that South might be ready from that, but it almost seems like if it can happen there, like why can't we have it happen here?
Yeah, and that's that is the question. It is interesting, and obviously, huge props to them being the first HBCU to have NCAA college hockey Division I as well. That's where I think a lot of it comes into play, where maybe it's a smaller school, or at least the athletic side of things, it's a little bit smaller, where there's more opportunity perhaps for the school to benefit a little bit more from it. But they initially, I think, supposed to be starting in 2024 to 25 this past season. They were supposed to be an AAU Division III college club hockey program, and then once the Nashville Predators learned about their program a little bit more, they helped put money into it. The school put money into it. I imagine they have donors as well. But once those sort of things happen with University of Tennessee, I think it'll be a great situation, because as I mentioned earlier, it's a hub for great college athletics. So I think there's definitely a market for it.
Definitely, I could see bunch of people wearing some Tennessee hockey jerseys for sure.
We see them everywhere. Like yesterday, we saw someone walking across campus, I think in the morning, wearing a Tennessee hockey jersey. We saw someone last night wearing a Tennessee hockey jersey, and these are people that aren't affiliated with the club. We see them at football games, we see them at basketball games. We have a fan base, for sure. It's we do draw a good crowd to the Coliseum, and usually we sell out Cool Sports every time. So, we have the fan base. It's just we got to get the right people on board.
It's crazy. I went to an Ice Bears game last year, and the game had ended. They did this post-game thing, and it was a really long time that we were still there, and I figured arena's empty. As we're walking out, a whole bunch of people are walking in, and I'm just looking at my wife. I was like, what's going on here? Maybe it's like open practice or open skate or something. And no, it was like a whole bunch of college kids walking in with Tennessee stuff on, thinking, okay, I still don't know what this is. And they set up a little table, and I go over to the girl, and I was, what's going on here? She goes, it's Tennessee ice hockey. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, and then I was reminded of the guy telling me about the whole situation and the guys playing in Farragut. That's what this is. You guys had a huge amount of people show up, and this was like 10 o'clock at night. This wasn't like a 7:30 game. This was like late at night. People were showing up. They were rowdy. They're having a good time to watch you guys play hockey. I mean, that must feel pretty cool to have that kind of support.
Definitely, and especially because of the, obviously the school that we're at, where football, basketball, baseball, softball, all those major teams at Tennessee have such huge followings already. It's cool to see that we have a fan base, and I think it's accredited to how much our social media has grown in recent history, how much hockey is picking up over in the Nashville area. That's where a lot of students are coming from. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of it is credit to that, and it's definitely cool to see.
Now, for the people on the radio can't see this, but if you're watching on YouTube, Patrick's wearing a championship shirt. Now, you guys were champions, correct me if I'm wrong, last year?
So 2024, it was when we were part of College Hockey South still. We were part of AAU Division II. Mm-hmm. We beat, I think it was Clemson. We beat Clemson in
Good
conference championships. Yeah, the better orange, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we won in 2024, which was my freshman year. It was an awesome experience. We've made nationals every year that I've been here so far. My freshman year, we lost in the semifinals to Florida Atlantic. Unfortunately, last year we lost in our pool play. So we're continuing to grow, continuing to find more success. But proud of the championship that we do have.
Yeah, but you guys, like you said earlier, are continuing to grow, but you're also continuing to move and move up and move around, and for more challenging competition.
Right.
And so, guys, this isn't just a joke or no. This isn't a no joke kind of thing here. These guys are legit. You guys are the championships. You guys are playing top notch hockey. Get out there and support them. This is ridiculous, guys. So speaking of that, how can people support you besides going on the website and buying one of those awesome jerseys?
Yeah, big way for you to support is obviously just being there at games. I think word of mouth is huge. As I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of people is like, didn't know we had hockey here, and it's like, well, yeah, it is club, but we've won club of the year a number of years in the running here. So we're most competitive. I'd like to say most successful club on campus, club sport at least. So word of mouth, going to games, that's a huge way. Obviously merchandise, we have merchandise on our website as well, but for us, just continuing to grow the brand is the biggest thing, and best way to do that for us is just by going to games and just spreading the word about Tennessee hockey.
I love that. All right, everybody. So you're listening to the Prosperity Lounge on 96.3 FM. We're streaming live on YouTube, and you can listen to this anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, anywhere. If you're enjoying tonight's conversation with Patrick, I know you are, I am, come support the Ice Vols in person this upcoming season. Their next set of games is next weekend in Farragut, Friday the 19th. That game is at 9:40 p.m., and then Sunday the 21st, I think it's at 12:15. I was told tickets are $12, so we'll go with that. We'll just go with that. That's what I was told.
Correct. That's correct.
Great. If you also want to find some practical tools for your own life, head over to theprosperitylounge.com. You'll find our 8-step guide to stop living paycheck to paycheck, our prosperity planner, our budgeting tool, our free community, and all your favorite and fun connections. Again, check us out on YouTube as well. All our old conversations are up. You get to see what we look like, have fun behind the scenes in the studio. That's at the Prosperity Lounge. That's at youtube.com at the Prosperity Lounge, and subscribe there so you don't miss a beat. All right, let's get back to Patrick for a bit here. Learn a little bit more about yourself. You've been a goalie since age 8.
8 years old.
What drew you to that position? Because, baseball players, when they're not that good, they're in right field, picking flowers. Maybe a soccer goalie, you can't run or do anything. You kind of just stick over there and go. You wanted to be a goalie.
Yeah. So it's I feel like everybody's path to being a goalie is a little bit different. But once you're starting out in hockey, when you're 6 or 7 years old, the way teams operate is that every game a different kid on the team plays goalie.
Oh, fun.
And it's funny because I liked playing forward. I liked being out there scoring goals. I got thrown back on defense for a whole bunch of games, and I thought it was boring because I wasn't able to give it. I had no opportunity to score. And I say it's funny because the first game I ever played when it was my turn to play goalie, I think it was against Marblehead, for anyone who knows where that is, in Massachusetts. We played Marblehead, and I let in 10 goals, and I thought it was awesome. So ever since then, I kind of still stuck with the rotation throughout the rest of the year of playing goalie. But then, by the end of the year, it's like I wanted to play goalie every single time. So then I think that was when I was 7 years old. And then the following year, I decided to turn to goalie full-time. Been doing that ever since. So this is my 13th or 14th year of being a goalie. So a little while, but
that's awesome. God, just thinking, puck coming at you. I don't even know how fast you guys are going now, but I was going to say, I wrote down 80 miles an hour, but it's probably a lot faster.
It's probably a little bit faster than that for some of the
the
top guys. Maybe wrist shots are anywhere from like 75 to 80. Slap shots.
Okay.
Slap shots might get up towards 90 for some of those heavy hitters. So
now, we joked when we first chatted that you put somebody in that position now who's never played it. You got an 80-mile-an-hour puck coming at you. You're probably terrified of what's coming at you, but as you've grown in the position, you've grown with the speed of the pucks coming at you for your reaction time, right? So probably nothing terrifies you now.
No. I mean, if I threw you back there, you'd probably be pretty scared.
Oh, I would ask for more padding.
Yeah, but
possible.
For anyone who's been doing it a long time, it becomes routine. I don't feel the pucks; they just hit me. I don't feel them.
Okay.
But it's not too bad. I mean, the farther you get into it, and what I mean by that is just like the higher up that you go, the higher levels that you play. While the game does get faster, at the same time, once you adjust to it, it gets a little bit slower. So it becomes a lot easier to manage. So, for me, it's not scary.
Any crazy injuries or bruises or welts that came from just like, man, that didn't feel like anything, and the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this?
Nothing crazy, knock on wood.
Okay.
Hold
on, everybody.
Yeah,
knock on my head.
On wood.
There we go.
But yeah, no, I mean, at most, it's just the occasional bruise, maybe on like the shoulder or the arm, but nothing substantial, which is obviously good.
Okay. They talked about wanting to score goals. Have you had the opportunity as a goalie to score a goal, maybe in an open ice situation or an empty netter?
I've never been presented the opportunity, but if it did happen, I'd consider it. It depends on the game. If it's a 2-goal game and they have an empty net, maybe I'd go for it. But if it's a big game, only up by 1 goal, definitely not. I'll let that one go around the back of the net. Let my defenseman pick it up. It depends on the situation.
Give them the scraps, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And then thank you afterwards.
Yeah.
In that position, so you're back there. You got your defenseman in front of you. Have you guys been in a situation where there might have been a scuffle for a hard hit on Patrick, and there's been we're going to protect Patrick and get into this?
I mean, it's pretty common. Not me being hit, but say, for example, like puck is slowly trickling in towards me. I cover it, and then the opposing player comes in and just snow plows me with snow, ice up in my face. Like they'll let them have it a little bit. If I cover the puck, they whack my glove. Obviously, it doesn't hurt me. I don't feel it, but they'll shove them around. So yeah, I mean there's something that's similar to that happens almost every game. But I'm glad I have my defenseman back there to take care of things for me.
Good for you guys. We were at one of the games in the Ice Bears game, and the goalies got into it, it was a massive brawl, and the goalies were fighting each other.
Yeah.
Is that a dream of yours to get into one of those?
No,
scuffles?
I don't need none of that.
Okay.
No dropping the gloves for me. That's for sure.
I try to do that happen. I try to have that happen all the time when I play NHL hockey on
Mm-hmm.
Xbox. I try to I want to start a fight as bad as possible.
Yeah.
Throw the gloves.
Right.
Okay. So speaking of training and getting back to that a little bit, do you guys train in the off season? What's your off season like to stay sharp and train?
Yeah. Everyone is different. Me, for example, I have a goalie coach that I've worked with ever since I started playing goalie. So I go back to his company every summer, skate roughly 20 times throughout the summer, twice a week. So it depends on the player. A lot of the guys will join higher end, either men's leagues teams or just summer teams in general. There's a lot of summer tournaments that roll around. I'm unfortunately too old for them now, but there's, like I said, there's higher end men's leagues that take care of that, and some of those have some pretty high quality players, like former pros, maybe some current NCAA hockey players. So everyone is different, but in terms of Tennessee hockey things, for the most part, once it hits the off season, we're off. So all up to the player on what they decide to do during the off season.
Okay. And when is your season? What is your season considered as far as months go?
So with club sports, it's just natural that there's a tryout process. So we start tryouts the first day of classes, begin in August. So we started August 17th, and then we had our first games this past weekend, but we'll go all the way through March. So we don't play during any winter breaks or Thanksgiving breaks. Mm-hmm. So for the most part, during when school is out, we're not playing, and that's just the nature of club hockey. But we go almost all year.
Wow. When you're scouting opponents, you guys watch a lot of tape. You use tape available to watch in these situations. Obviously, games I've seen some games are on YouTube, some games are streamed. So nowadays, it's probably a little bit better to get this type of jump on your opponent by being able to scout them.
Yeah, we are. I have to give a lot of credit to our assistant coach, Harry Cadmus. He's our film guy. He probably spends way too much time looking at film, but as we head into game week, he's probably spending 8 to 12, maybe more hours just going over game film, just making sure that everybody's prepared and what we know what to look for in certain situations, penalty kill, power play stuff, all the important details, even just like how they break out the puck from the zone. So he spends a lot of time, and we always do 1 or 2 film sessions before we head into our first game that weekend.
And probably with the nature of club sports, and it's probably the nature of most college sports, your turnover every year of players is probably a lot. Considering graduation, maybe in a club sports situation, people don't want to play anymore, or they have something else going on. So this tryout process and the camaraderie of a team, and then learning the people's strengths and weaknesses of your teammates on the ice and through the practice process, does that dictate gameplay style? Like, hey, last year we were really run and gun. This year we're more defensive or more strategic with our approach, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say it depends. In terms of turnover, this year we actually had a really good, returning squad. I think we only lost 4 players, and 2 of them graduated. 2 of them decided not to play. Decision not to play is just, a player has other interests in mind because, like I said before, it's pay to play. So it's love for the game. But yeah, no, I think in terms of the last couple of years that I've been here, maybe my freshman year was different, but in terms of just overall systems of things, our head coach, Drew King, has done, pretty much copy-paste of a lot of things. We've kept the same, sort of forecheck, style of defense, all that sort of stuff. So for the most part, in terms of systems, they've remained pretty much the same. But, every year we'll get 6 to 10 new guys, and that's, filling the gap of players that have graduated, decided not to play. But then, sometimes we'll have some really solid players that come in, and they, are able to make the team over some players that might have played it on the top team from the previous year. So, no, it's fun when we get new players, but this year at least we had a really good returning program.
That leads me into recruitment, because you're talking about most sports, basketball a little less, but when you think about football, you're recruiting for a style of the coach.
Right.
So if you are a run and gun, running back heavy team like Oklahoma from the 90s and stuff like that, you're not necessarily recruiting quarterback to be a quarterback. You're handing the ball off.
Right.
Then coaches come in and okay, we want to pass the ball. So now we got these running backs. We have to recruit different people. You guys keeping a system in place. You're recruiting for that system, or you're recruiting players and we'll make it work.
Yeah, I would say it's more just in terms of recruiting players, and then they'll adjust to the systems that we have in place. I think the coach's mindset on that is just a lot easier for them. It's kind of just what they know. So in terms of just recruiting players, it's more so just trying to bring in the best players that we can to continue to grow the program. Because when I'm not sure how much you know on the world of junior hockey, but when you have players coming in from the NAL or NCDC, where those are higher end juniors leagues, a lot of those players will go on to play NCAA college hockey. If we can get a couple of those guys every year, the program is going to continue to grow, because when you're recruiting to those higher end players that are currently playing in those leagues, it's like, some of those guys have understood kind of what the beauty of club hockey is, and they'll want to come and play here too. So, we just try to bring in the best players that we can, and then we have the systems in place.
Now, speaking of junior hockey, correct me if I'm wrong, the Canadian junior leagues were a sort of semi-pro league, which made their players ineligible for NCAA hockey. So basically, that was a feeder league to NHL and WHL and all that stuff in the past. So now that's sort of changed. You touched on that earlier. That system has kind of changed. So now it's allowing Canadian junior players to come to the NCAA and play, which makes the talent pool a lot bigger.
Right.
Which then, in a sense, makes it, you got guys that are potentially used to be maybe, bottom 8-10 on an NCAA 1 roster, and now top of an NCAA 3 roster, bottom of the NCAA 3 roster, and now top club sport roster, and so on and so forth. So it makes the competition a lot more robust.
Right.
Which, in turn, could potentially propel club sports to a level where, like, hey, this is now our talent pool is so much wider, and we're getting this level of play that we haven't seen before. That now colleges are going to look at it and go, we need to monetize it.
Yeah, 100%.
What you guys want.
There's a number of programs in club college hockey now that have found the resources and they've found the right people at their school who will actually support the programs a lot more. And team like UNLV, for example, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. They beat University of Denver last year, which they were the reigning champions for NCAA Division I hockey. A school like that where this year I heard they brought in like 30 to 35 NCAA Division I players on official visits. Wow. So, there's a lot of room for growth, and I think in terms of just getting the right people on board and getting the right players to come to your school, it makes recruiting a whole lot. It makes recruiting a whole lot easier.
As far as recruiting goes, in your role as president, what does that entail? What is your official part in recruiting players? Yeah,
so for our program, a lot of it is just kind of 50-50 on players reaching out to us and me reaching out to specific teams. So, I'll be on the phone probably 6 to 12 hours a week with prospective players, coaches for juniors teams or high school teams, or wherever else, of just chatting with certain players who are interested in learning more about the program. And then ultimately it's when we have a prospect weekend in the spring with all these players that are interested, maybe already accepted to the school, it helps a lot in just helping players see more than what they can just understand from looking at the website, looking at our Instagram, all that sort of stuff. So it's super beneficial for me to just constantly be on the phone with a number of players per week, and then obviously some coaches that have players that might be interested as well.
Tell me a little bit more about that prospect weekend.
Yeah, it's we hold a prospect weekend every spring, usually the last weekend in March or the first weekend in April.
Okay.
And it's it's a whole weekend funded by our program where players will get a tour led by our staff of campus, and then they have the opportunity to skate a couple times in the Coliseum as well. It's fun the way that we set it up. It's kind of like we run like a 3 or 4 team tournament with all the prospects broken up into different teams, and whole purpose is it's not to make any decisions before the tryout process rolls around, but just to help the players kind of learn more and get to know some of the players that they might either want to live with or might be playing with on the team the following year. So it's a lot of fun, and it definitely helps a lot, because I think the last couple years I'd say about 80 to 85% of players that are accepted and go to the prospect weekend do ultimately decide to commit to Tennessee. So it's very beneficial for us.
That's awesome. So it's sort of like a official recruiting visit.
Almost,
in
yeah.
a way. Okay.
In a way, yeah.
So you get to get there, you can see what the facilities are like, meet people, and it's important to kind of make that decision, because you guys get to see them too, and
Absolutely.
make connections, and maybe connect over the summer, and kind of figure out what's going on.
Absolutely,
next
yeah.
year. Okay, cool. Now your roster's filled with players. I wrote this down, from hockey hotbeds like Massachusetts and Minnesota. How did that happen? I wrote that specifically.
So, yeah, I would say I got to give it a lot of credit to 2022 when Tennessee beat Alabama. That's how it's. I decided to that I definitely wanted to apply after that. But
Okay.
just the growth of Southern schools in general, that definitely has attracted a lot more out-of-state students. I think hockey players in general, I think it's always been pretty popular. If they don't decide to go pursue juniors or NCAA hockey, I think SEC schools have always been kind of like a great backup plan.
Sure.
I think we have a great backup plan. But yeah, I think, like myself, I'm from the Boston area. Just kind of, because up there we don't have like that huge college campus experience. So once I kind of saw like the, storming the field, beating Alabama, because everybody knows about Alabama football and SEC football in general. I think that's a huge draw for a lot of out-of-state students, and players that aren't looking to go play NCAA hockey. It's right up their alley. So that's definitely a huge factor in that.
I'm going to get in trouble here with the older crowd, but I mean, Boston College hasn't had a great moment since Doug Flutie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean that's
what I'm talking about.
At
right?
least for Massachusetts people, that's the closest thing you got.
Yeah.
I think the next closest program to that would probably be Syracuse. So, just SEC football has always been, cool to me for the shorter years that I've known about it. So, once
winters are a little better too down here.
Yeah. I mean, it still snows here every once in a while.
I grew up in North Jersey. You get a little taste of snow here, but it's a little bit better than those blizzards we used to get.
The lowest temperatures aren't too bad. Yeah, it's funny because when I say that to people, I was like, oh yeah, when I was looking at some colleges, I was looking to maybe get a little bit better weather. I went to a boarding school up in New Hampshire on Lake Winnipesaukee, and there was a stretch of like 3 days. It was like negative 40. So with the wind. So that's kind of what did it for me, where I was like, maybe when I go to college, I get a little bit better weather.
You probably felt that. I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, that winter where we had that ice storms and everything was like below zero. You're probably like, this is fine. I'm going to be in a T-shirt.
Right.
I'm used to this.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is the eligibility rule for ACHA hockey? Can an older student like myself show up and play?
Yeah, so it's It resembles a bit to what the NCAA eligibility is. It's you get 5 years to play.
5 years.
Or after you turn 21, that's when your clock starts ticking. But we'll play a couple teams like Vandy, MTSU, for example. They get a bigger crowd of people who have played hockey in the past, but they, maybe they went to serve in the military. I think my freshman year when we played Vanderbilt, I think they had like 2 or 3 guys. Georgia Tech as well had someone. So, guys that are in their mid-30s, they can get, special access to play, which is fun. So, I mean, it's not something you'd see in NCAA where they've got someone who, is maybe 33 years old and has a wife and kids at home. But, that's just another aspect of club hockey that you get.
Okay.
But
you
yeah,
see that once in a while in football, right? Those older guys
Right.
come back out.
Right. For the most part, though, it's guys will be in that 5-year eligibility range, or once they hit 21, maybe they took a couple years off, came back to play. That's when their clock starts ticking.
Okay. Do you guys have anything? Well, the big thing in college sports, especially at Tennessee this last offseason, had to do with name, image, likeness, college pay to play. Now, obviously, you guys could be in a situation or not. You're not NCAA, so that's a different rule set and governing body that's covering all that. But do you guys have opportunities for that as players in club sport to kind of capitalize on some promotional deals, or get out there and say,
Yeah.
hey, this is the Prosperity Lounge brought to you by?
Yeah. So, I mean, so it's all, in terms of certain players building their own brand, that's all up to them on what they want to do. But, there's going to be opportunity this season that we're going to be introducing, which we haven't done previously, where, in terms of merchandise, jersey merchandise, we're going to be introducing the NIL into that, where maybe if a fan buys a jersey with a specific number on it, the player might get some reimbursement back to them.
Cool.
So, we're working to get that into our program, but in terms of having, maybe an outside donor, outside funding source for players, we're not at that stage yet, but we're working to get there.
And what's your number, by the way, so people can
33.
33. All right, flood it with some 33s, everybody. We had a brief conversation before we started about the difference between, I think last year you guys were in Division. I saw Division 1 and Division 3, but that was AAU hockey.
Right.
In a different governing body this year, there's a Division 2 and a Division 3. Reason being was first-year teams moving in don't necessarily go Division 1. They start Division 2 or 3 and then move up.
Correct. Yeah. So, even before my time here, the ACHA has been around for the last 50 years or so, but the other league has not been around quite as long. It initially started as the College Hockey Federation, maybe in 2017, 2018, maybe even a little later than that, maybe COVID 2020, but it moved over to AAU. So, AAU basketball, baseball, that same governing body ran, the second organization of club college hockey. And that's, that has always been an outlet for teams where maybe they're not quite as competitive enough yet to be as a part of the ACHA. I would say last year when we were in AAU Division 1, that's very comparable to what we're in now at AAU or ACHA Division 2, with the top end teams being able to compete in ACHA Division 1. So there's been a lot of movement. It was actually a pretty crazy off season with all the things that were happening, because there was supposed to be another league that formed, but ultimately fell through the cracks with not enough teams wanting to be a part of it. So yeah, currently there's still ACHA and AAU are part of, both of our programs are part of ACHA, but that second organization is there just to provide another outlet for many college programs to still be competitive.
Awesome. This has been fantastic, by the way. Thank you so much for showing up.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I want to get real quick here. We're running towards the top of the hour. We got a few minutes left, and I have a question from the audience I want to get to. But talking about your leadership as president, can you briefly touch on what your leadership style is and what your responsibilities are like?
Yeah, in terms of responsibilities, as president, I oversee everything. So in terms of just building the schedules, operating the budget, everything that you could think of from A to Z in terms of running an organization, that all falls under my umbrella. We're operated under a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It's called Volunteers Hockey Foundation. So that's our kind of, we fall under that. But yeah, I have, like I mentioned earlier, I have a team of officers. So I have a vice president, I have a treasurer, a whole bunch of people that are willing to carve time out of their days and their weeks to be a part of the program, which is awesome. But yeah, in terms of leadership style, my freshman year we had it and it was great. And I've followed in the footsteps of just trying to be overly communicative, just trying to communicate everything that's going on to my officers to make sure that everybody's on the same page at all times. And I think a large part of that is due to just kind of learning under our head coach, Drew King. He's been in the program for the last 8 years, 5 years as a player, I think 3 or 4 years as a president, and then the last 3 years he's been our head coach. So he's done a really, really good job of building up the program from when he first started. And, where we're at today is largely, I have to give a lot of credit to him because I'm constantly, not necessarily looking for guidance on everything, but if there's a little thing that pops up here and there, it's like just asking for a little bit of advice. And he always seems to have the right answers for me. So, he likes to be very communicative, very on time, ahead of schedule about everything that's going on, just to make sure that the players and officers are on the same page. So I like to follow in that sort of mentorship.
Speaking of mentors, what's the best advice you received to be a leader?
I think a really good piece of advice has come from my goalie coach. His name is Brian DeCord. He told me once to master the step before you keep climbing. And I think that's played a big role in a lot of the bigger decisions that I've made. It's, if you're not fully aware or fully ready to move on to something bigger, just keep working on it. And then obviously once you're ready, then you can go ahead and take the next step. So I think that's a great piece of advice I've received.
I love that. I'm gonna splice that out for later. Where do you see yourself after college? Staying in hockey? Looking for another path?
I would love to stay in hockey. I enjoy very much what I do as president. It's, as a sports management major at the university, I think it's a really, really good foot in the door. Taking on as many responsibilities as I have as a student. Once, obviously, I know I'll have to take a step down once I get into the sports world of having a little bit more entry-level position. But I think, once I would continue to work my way up, I think I'd be prepared for what comes.
It's awesome. I just want to mention something in the chat here. We get joke chat here. Somebody asked if they make skates with training blades. I think they have the ones with the two sides for the little kids to use. Where you got to hold the handheld ones. Those are fun. Thanks to Patrick for being on the show. Great guy and very mature and well-spoken young man. So, yeah, did yourself. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
I got one question from the audience real quick here, and then we'll wrap up. Leah from Knoxville wrote in and asked, how do you balance being a student, team president, and goalie all at once?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot on my plate. But I think, biggest aspect of it is just enjoying what I do. You hear it every day. It's like, would you rather make a lot of money but hate what you do or do what you love? So I have a lot of passion for hockey and kind of just, helping out my players and all that stuff. And I think that goes a long way in balancing everything as much as I can.
Biggest misconception of Tennessee hockey?
It's just a club sport.
Just a club sport. It's way more than that.
It's way more than
that.
Right.
Best way to support you guys, again, website is?
TennesseeHockey.org.
TennesseeHockey.org. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram. Buy some merch and come out to the games. Civic Auditorium. The game's going to be listed on the website, I imagine.
Yep, games are already listed up on our website. You can buy tickets for our first game next Friday. Season tickets are available too. So, we'd love as much support as we can get.
Come out and see us in Farragut. I will be there Friday night after this show. You guys will listen live. I will be out there also doing a live recording you guys, having some fun. Maybe meet some of the guys, come over and say hello.
Absolutely.
Anything I can do to support you guys, let me know. We'll do some meet and greets. I'm in the chat here. Ooh, that'd be fun.
That would be great.
Yeah, come on out Friday night. I think the 9:40 puck drops at 9:40, as they say.
Yep.
Come out a little bit earlier, hang out with us, see us there, hang out, have some fun, support the Tennessee hockey, and that's going to wrap it for tonight. So, Patrick, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. Got a few takeaways for everybody here. Hockey is alive and growing in Tennessee, and the Ice Vols are leading the charge. Playing at this level takes passion and discipline. No scholarships, just love of the game. I love that. There's that Kevin Costner movie, For the Love of the Game. The future of SEC hockey may be closer than we think. We've got to get those wallets out and support everybody. Leadership matters, and Patrick's story shows how one player can make an impact on and off the ice. Friends, if you've ever been to an Ice Vols game, now is the time. Head to Farragut this upcoming weekend. Next weekend, actually, September 19th and 21st. Bring your family. Experience college hockey in Tennessee. Come say hi. See us there. Until next time, everybody, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge.
Pull up a chair. The journey's